Rev up your engines!
Well, Volkswagen just introduced their low-cost electric car. As usual, has a stupid name, ID.2. They're going to launch it in 2025, and they say that they're going to start at $27,000. And it's going to look pretty much like an old-fashioned Volkswagen Rabbit. Modernized, of course. They're not bad-looking cars, right? Well, if they can do that and make it, they'll probably sell a whole bunch of them, especially in Europe. They're going to market it first in Europe. They said it'll have a range of 280 miles, and it'll have 226 horsepower. If they're going to electrify, they're certainly going to do it in Europe before they do it in the United States. It's a smaller place. People don't drive that far. The countries are much smaller. They got a lot of people in cities that maybe an electric car would be perfectly fine for them. It's not like they're driving from New York to LA and back, right? So it looks like Volkswagen's starting to pull ahead in the race to buy a lower priced electric car, which of course is the ultimate thing. How do you think they sold Volkswagen Beetles, the original Beetles in the United States? Small cars at a really low price. Back in the day, you could buy one of those Volkswagens for $1,000-something bucks. They didn't cost all that much money. It was $1,280 for the original Volkswagen Beetle in the United States, their lowest line one, right? So, if they can make these electric cars and they can sell them for $27,000, now you might think, why $27,000? Well, that's 25,000 euros because they're going to start selling them in Europe, and they thought, we'll sell them for 25,000 euros. If they can do that and get away with it, they'll probably sell quite a few of them. Smaller market, smaller car, less distance to drive. It would make a lot more sense to do that in Europe. Mars says, I need help as soon as possible. I have a gasoline leak. Got 97 Acura 2.2. It's leaking gas on the passenger side. You got a gasoline leak under the hood. Don't drive it. You got to fix. You got to figure out what's wrong with it. Now, most of the time with those, what leaks, it's an older one. It's a 97. The fuel line. The neoprene-based one, not the metal one. So follow all the hoses that flex, like rubber, the neoprene rubber. Generally, you're going to have to replace the whole thing because it's so old, it's 97. But I mean, if you see it's rubbed somewhere, the line's rubbed, you could cut the hole and then get stainless steel barb connectors. You could connect it and put clamps and fix it. But since it's a 97, my advice would be replace all of the rubber fuel lines on it because it's so old. Now, let's say it's not a line, but it's on the injectors itself. The injectors have rubber seals that go bad, and then you try to figure out which one is leaking. So you'd like turn the key on to energize the fuel pump and then see if it's squirting out of any of those. And then you could take them apart and replace the seals or replace the injectors too. But you want to pinpoint where the leak is first. And if it is the hose, believe me, you're better off replacing the whole thing because that old, if one part's rotten, unless it's rubbed loose on a piece of metal, it's just rotten and you'd want to replace the whole assembly, not just one piece because the whole thing's going to be old and rotten being a 97. Car Dummy says, which store should I buy my car parts from? I got 2010 RAV4. I'm going to do a tune-up. I hear so many different things at different stores. What do you recommend? AutoZone, O'Reilly's, Napa, or maybe another suggestion? All right, here's the thing. You know what parts you need. You're doing a tune-up, so it's not something you need instantly, right? My advice, go online and buy it that way. You're going to save a lot of money. For example, I've been to auto parts stores where they'll sell spark plugs for a car like that, and they'll want anywhere from $12 to $15 per spark plug. Now, the only thing you care about the spark plug is the manufacturer. If you get Denso or if you get an NGK, right? You can buy those same spark plugs online for much, much lower price. Same thing with air filters, fuel filters, oil filters, oil. I buy my stuff for things like that I don't need it immediately because you're doing it, tune up or oil change. You plan ahead. I buy my oil. I buy my oil filters, spark plugs, all that stuff online because it's so much cheaper. The auto parts stores that called themselves discount auto parts are no longer discount auto parts stores. Their prices, they just keep raising them up because they become more like corner convenience stores. They're close. They're going to charge you more because they're there. They have it. Same thing with their batteries. You go to one of those stores to buy a battery, they might hit you for $180 for a battery. You go to Walmart and you can buy an equivalent battery for probably $90. It's the convenience factor that they have. So if you don't have to buy from them, don't. Go online. See which parts you want. You buy the same parts. Like I say, you want Denso plugs or NGK plugs. You can find them online, much lower price, and buy them that way. Danny77 says, I lost my key. I got a 2009 Suzuki Swift. I lost the key. I still have a fob, but I can't start it. I removed the fob connector and tried to start it with the clutch down. Nothing happened. Yeah, you just have the one that opens the doors. That isn't going to help you start the car. That is strictly to open the car, lock the car, turn the car alarm on and off. That's all that it's for. Now, your problem is is you lost your key. This is why I tell people, always have 2 keys. Stick one in a drawer so you always have a spare. You lose the other one, you got the spare. Use the spare to start your car. Drive right to a locksmith. Have him build you another key so you always have a spare. You're screwed now. Unless you have the number for your key. The keys actually have code numbers. You could give the locksmith your code number and they could make you a key, right? But if you don't have any of that information, you're going to have the whole thing rekeyed. You're going to have to get the lock taken out of the car. They're going to have to sell you another lock key tumbler assembly that comes with that key, but then of course your door keys are going to be a different one, and you would have to rekey all the door keys if you wanted to have locking the stuff. Otherwise you leave your car open, you won't be able to get back in if you lock the door, right? You'd at least have to rekey the driver's door so you could open and close the driver's door. You have to buy a lock for that. Another key. It's going to be very expensive. That's why I tell people, keep your spare key somewhere. Always have at least 2, because if you don't, you're looking at a massive, insane expense to fix it. Next question. Can the code P0420 be a faulty oxygen sensor, or is it always the cat? Oh, it can be all kinds of things. It's a generic code. You could have bad oxygen sensors, either the one before the cat or the one after the cat. It can be a bad cat. It can be an engine running too rich. It can be an engine running too lean. There's lots of things that can make your catalytic converter inefficient. Can even be an exhaust leak before the catalytic converter sucking air in, which screws the whole thing up and gives it. There's a lot of reasons, very complex. The theory behind cats are simple. They burn on-burned hydrocarbons, but the way they do it is through complex computer-driven technology that does all kinds of riching, leaning the fuel system to make it get more oxygen and then burn out the impurities. So it can be a lot of reasons. Sorry for 5601 said, thoughts on a Charger Hellcat? Well, the name says it all, Hellcat, okay? It's like a cat. It's super fast, but it also has the name Hell, which is where you may be going if you drive one, because they run into everything. They're so fast. People drive them too fast. You don't need a vehicle that's got, 700 something horsepower. That's just insanity. People can't control it. And of course, it does break. One of you viewers emailed me from Toronto, and he was laughing at his friend bought one at 15,000 miles. The engine exploded. You want really fast. You don't care about money and gas mileage. Yeah, but don't expect them to last all that long. And they are extremely dangerous machines because they have too much horsepower. They're fun to drive, yeah, but extremely dangerous. That's why we call them Hellcats. K-Mal says, Scotty, hello from Malta. What are your thoughts on an Land Rover Freelander 2 with the diesel engine? Are they overall reliable or just money pits? Land Rovers are generally gigantic money pits, but the diesel ones are a lot different. Americans don't like them. They don't buy them. My neighbor in Rhode Island has one with the diesel engine, and they're very reliable engines. No big horsepower, but they're reliable engines. They're much more reliable than the gasoline Rovers. There's no arguing that. And you're in the Isle of Malta. People use a lot of diesel there, and if they got mechanics that know how to work on them, why not? Plus, you're on the Isle of Malta. How far are you driving? That's a pretty small place, right? You can't go that far. So if you're not driving far and you got a diesel engine, it might last you the rest of your life. AL8989 says, hot positive power on my car stereo chassis. I got my car stereo Pioneer out for display replacement after changing it, confirming it's back to live on a bench. I was about to put it back in the car, and the main power harness was connected. The radio chassis touched the metal part in the car and sparked, which made me think something was wrong. What is going on? By the way, I checked with my multimeter and found there's 7 to 8 volts between the stereo metal chassis and my car chassis. Your radio somehow is getting positive electricity. If you're getting that kind of voltage, you said you tested your radio and stuff, but I'd say you got a problem with your radio. The entire metal around your radio is supposed to be negative electricity, right? It's ground. And if you're getting positive when you test it between the chassis and the frame, and you got it plugged in, but you don't have it bolted on yet, don't bolt it on. That spark gave you a warning. Hey, there's a zapping. It shouldn't be there. You probably got a problem in your radio itself, or your wiring harness is really squirrely. Somehow, that thing has to be grounded, and from my experience of most of those radios, you got a ground wire already on the radio with the wiring harness. You're getting positive electricity, so either your radio shorted out or you got a really bad wiring harness problem that's sending power through the radio. I would assume you actually have a radio problem. Somehow it's sending positive electricity too, because you said 7 to 8 volts. Something inside the radio is messed up and it's sending 7 to 8 volts through the chassis. You said you tested the radio on a bench, but the difference between tested on a bench and tested on the car where it's grounded on the car, I'd assume you got a radio problem there. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.